Welcome back to Multiverse of Anime, where we explore the most mind-bending alternate realities in anime history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more incredible what-if scenarios. Picture this. The ice-cold vacuum of space trembles as two golden auras burn side by side, their power signatures identical yet impossibly different. A father and son, separated by decades of time, now stand united as the universe's greatest nightmare for tyrants everywhere. Bardock, the low-class Saiyan warrior who should have died with his planet, stands shoulder to shoulder with Kakarot, the legendary Super Saiyan who shattered every limit the universe thought possible. But this is not the story you know. Frieza hovers before them, his perfect white form radiating malevolent energy, yet for the first time in his existence, genuine fear flickers in those crimson eyes. His power level reads over 100 million, a force that once seemed insurmountable, but now he faces something that breaks every rule of combat he has ever known. Two warriors who move as one mind, fight with one heart, and share a bond that transcends the cold calculations of power levels. Watch as Bardock raises his right hand while Goku mirrors the motion with his left. Energy crackles between their palms, not the chaotic discharge of individual power, but something far more terrifying. A synchronized Kamehameha wave that bends space itself as it forms. The technique that Goku perfected through years of training on Earth, now enhanced by Bardock's brutal efficiency and tactical precision. Frieza launches forward, his speed creating shockwaves that shatter nearby asteroids. His death beam, capable of piercing planets, streaks toward the father-son duo, but they are already gone. Instant transmission, executed in perfect tandem, places them on opposite sides of the tyrant. What follows is not a battle, but a masterclass in coordinated devastation. Bardock strikes from the left with a technique that should not exist. His Riot Javelin enhanced with psychic targeting that sees through Frieza's movements before they happen. Goku attacks from the right with a Dragon Fist that roars with the power of Earth's guardian spirit. Frieza, for all his transformation mastery, cannot defend against attacks that anticipate his every counter. The Emperor of the Universe crashes through the debris of 3 shattered moons, his perfect form finally showing damage. Golden blood, the kind that has never been spilled by any warrior, floats in the zero gravity around him. He stares at the two Saiyans, his mind racing to comprehend what he is witnessing. This is not just power, this is evolution. The battle escalates beyond anything the universe has ever witnessed. Energy blasts that dwarf supernovas light up the cosmos, as 3 of the most powerful beings ever born push each other to limits that threaten reality itself. Frieza's desperate counterattack creates a chain reaction that begins tearing holes in the fabric of space-time. But what you haven't seen yet will change everything you thought you knew about Dragon Ball. In the original timeline, Bardock died alone, his sacrifice nothing more than a futile gesture against inevitable destruction. Planet Vegeta exploded. The Saiyan race was reduced to a handful of survivors scattered across the galaxy. But what if one moment of impossible choice could rewrite the fate of an entire universe? What if Bardock's psychic vision showed him not just his death but a path to salvation that required the ultimate leap of faith? What if the technology that launched his infant son to Earth could do something far more incredible? What if a father's love could literally transcend time itself? The truth behind this impossible reunion lies in a single decision made in Planet Vegeta's final moments, a choice that involved forbidden Saiyan technology, psychic powers that should not exist, and a sacrifice that was actually a transformation. The moment when Bardock looked into his son's pod and saw not an escape route but a destiny that could only be fulfilled together. Frieza's most terrifying transformation awaits. King Cold's ultimate plan will shake the foundations of everything you believe about the Dragon Ball universe. Clone armies with the power of gods will rise. Alliances that should be impossible will form out of desperate necessity. And in the end, a battle that threatens to tear apart the very concept of existence itself. But first, you need to understand how a low-class Saiyan warrior became the one thing that Frieza never accounted for in his perfect plan for universal domination. A father who refused to let his son face the universe's greatest evil alone. The divergence point approaches, the moment when everything you thought you knew about Dragon Ball gets turned upside down, when the story of a Saiyan sent to Earth becomes the legend of a family that saved the universe. Are you ready to witness the birth of the most powerful alliance in anime history? Ready to see what happens when 2 generations of Saiyan warriors combine their strength, their wisdom, and their unbreakable bond to challenge the very concept of evil itself? Then hold on tight, because this ride through the multiverse is about to get very, very intense. The story begins where legends are born and empires fall. Planet Vegeta, jewel of the Saiyan race, orbits its dying sun in the final days before genocide. The planet's crimson sky reflects the blood that has been spilled across 1,000 conquered worlds, each victory adding another layer to the Saiyan reputation as the universe's most feared warriors. Bardock wipes alien blood from his battle armor as his squad returns from yet another successful planetary conquest. The mission on Kanasa should have been routine. Eliminate the psychic defenders, clear the population, prepare the world for Frieza Force occupation. Standard procedure for a low-class Saiyan warrior whose power level barely registers 10,000 on the Empire's scanners. But routine becomes nightmare when the dying Kanasan warrior Tulo presses his bloodied hand against Bardock's face. Energy unlike anything in Saiyan combat experience floods through his consciousness. Not the raw power that drives their transformations, but something far more dangerous. The ability to see through time itself. The visions hit like physical blows, flashes of a white and purple emperor floating in space, his finger extended toward planet Vegeta, the world exploding in a ball of fire that consumes every Saiyan city, every warrior, every child, his own death, alone and defiant but ultimately meaningless against the overwhelming power of Frieza's true form. Then something impossible appears in the psychic storm. Images of his infant son Kakarot, grown to manhood on a distant blue world. But this is not the weak-hearted fool that Frieza expects Saiyans to become without their warrior culture. This is something unprecedented. A Saiyan who has transcended the limitations of their race through training methods that should not exist. Bardock watches in amazement as his adult son faces Frieza on a dying world called Namek. The Emperor has transformed beyond his first form, revealing power levels that dwarf entire Saiyan armies. Yet Kakarot fights as an equal, more than equal. His golden transformation radiates energy that makes Frieza's perfect form seem almost ordinary. But what captures Bardock's tactical mind is not just the raw power. It is how Kakarot fights. Every movement shows mercy held in check, strength guided by protection rather than conquest. This is Saiyan power evolved beyond the brutal efficiency their race has always known. This is what they could become if freed from the cycle of destruction that defines their culture. The visions intensify. Bardock sees battles that span multiple planets, warriors who combine their techniques not for greater destruction, but for more precise protection, combat methods that use overwhelming force to end conflicts quickly, minimizing casualties rather than maximizing them, a complete inversion of everything Saiyan culture represents. Most shocking of all, he witnesses his son showing mercy to defeated enemies, allowing them to live, to change, to become allies rather than corpses. The concept is so alien to Bardock's experience that his warrior instincts reject it, yet the results speak for themselves. Kakarot's method creates loyalty that fear never could, alliances that conquest never achieves. These are not the hallucinations of a dying brain. The psychic energy coursing through Bardock's consciousness carries the weight of absolute truth. Somewhere in the multiverse, in a timeline that will only exist if specific choices are made, his son has become the greatest warrior in the universe not through Saiyan brutality, but by rejecting everything their race has stood for. The irony cuts deeper than any battlefield wound. Frieza plans to eliminate the Saiyans because he fears their potential for growth. But the Emperor's calculations are based on warriors who remain trapped in their traditional culture of conquest. He has never considered what a Saiyan could become if raised outside that system, trained in philosophies that enhance rather than limit their natural abilities. Bardock's squad finds him collapsed in the ruins of the Kanasan city, his armor cracked and his power level fluctuating wildly. They assume battle damage and carry him back to their pods. None of them can see the temporal energy still crackling around his unconscious form, or the way his brain is processing information from futures that should not exist. During the journey back to planet Vegeta, the visions continue. Bardock witnesses his son's entire journey from infant refugee to universal protector, training under alien masters who teach techniques the Saiyan Empire never developed, learning that strength without compassion is merely destruction, while strength guided by love becomes creation itself. He sees Kakarot face enemies that dwarf Frieza's power, androids created by human science, a perfect being that absorbs other warriors to achieve completion, a pink demon that could destroy reality itself. In every case, his son finds ways to triumph not through superior brutality, but through connections with other warriors who share his protective philosophy. Most importantly, Bardock witnesses what his son truly lacks, the tactical knowledge that comes from real battlefield experience. Kakarot's training has made him incredibly powerful and given him an unshakable moral foundation, but his fights are reactive, responding to threats as they appear rather than anticipating and neutralizing them before they can fully develop. This is the gap that a father could fill. Bardock's decades of conquest have taught him to read enemy psychology, to predict strategic movements, to identify weak points in both individuals and organizations. Combined with Kakarot's pure power and protective instincts, they could become something unprecedented. Not just powerful warriors, but tactical geniuses who fight with both heart and mind. The visions show one more crucial detail. In the timeline where Kakarot faces Frieza alone, the Emperor escapes, wounded and humiliated, but alive and planning revenge that will threaten everything the young Saiyan has worked to protect. The pattern is clear. Individual strength, no matter how great, cannot prevent every catastrophe. But coordinated strength warriors who trust each other completely and fight with perfect synchronization could end threats permanently while preserving everything worth protecting. As planet Vegeta comes into view through the pod's viewport, Bardock makes the most important decision of his life. He will not die in a futile gesture of defiance. He will not allow his son to face the universe's greatest evils alone. Somehow, impossibly, he will find a way to stand beside Kakarot when the final battle comes. They are The psychic visions have shown him that Frieza fears Saiyan potential because he understands what they could become with time and proper development, but the Emperor's plan is based on eliminating them before that growth can occur. What if there was a way to accelerate the timeline, to bring a Saiyan warrior with full tactical experience to the moment when his son's power peaks? The solution exists in technology the Saiyans have never fully explored. The same pods that carry their infants to distant worlds can be modified with temporal displacement systems. Theoretical science that King Vegeta's researchers developed but never dared to test. Technology that could launch someone not just through space but through time itself. Bardock's tactical mind begins working through the logistics. The psychic energy from Tulo's gift could provide the navigation system needed for temporal targeting. His own life force could power the displacement field, and the destination is already established through his visions, the exact moment and location where his son will face Frieza in their ultimate confrontation. The plan is insane, the technology untested, the chances of survival minimal, but for the first time since receiving his visions, Bardock feels something other than helpless rage. He feels hope. As his pod docks in Planet Vegeta's spaceport, Bardock is already calculating the modifications needed for his desperate gambit. He has perhaps hours before Frieza's attack begins. Hours to turn theoretical science into practical salvation. Hours to transform a low-class warrior's suicide mission into a father's ultimate gift to his son. The divergence point approaches, the moment when one impossible choice will rewrite the fate of the universe. Time becomes Bardock's enemy as he races through Planet Vegeta's underground research facilities. His warrior instincts scream that Frieza's attack fleet is already positioning itself beyond the planet's sensors. Every minute spent modifying the escape pod is a minute closer to total annihilation. The royal scientists stare in disbelief as a low-class Saiyan warrior commandeers their most classified temporal displacement prototypes. But Bardock's power level has spiked dramatically since his return from Kanasa. The psychic energy coursing through his system has amplified his natural Saiyan strength beyond anything the researchers can challenge. More importantly, his technical knowledge has somehow expanded far beyond normal Saiyan education. The visions haven't just shown him the future. They've given him understanding of technologies and theories that shouldn't exist in their current timeline. His hands move across the control systems with impossible expertise, as if he's performed these modifications countless times before. The escape pod designed for his infant son Kakarot becomes something unprecedented, no longer just a vessel for traveling through space, but a capsule capable of piercing the barriers between different points in time itself. The modifications require components that officially don't exist, crystals that focus psychic energy, power cores that can generate temporal fields, navigation systems that can lock onto specific moments in future timelines. Jimmu finds him in the final stages of preparation. His mate has always possessed the strongest emotional bonds among their people, and seeing Bardock's desperate intensity breaks something inside her warrior conditioning. She doesn't question the impossible technology or demand explanations for modifications that seem like pure science fiction. She simply asks the question that matters most. Will this save their son? Bardock pauses in his frantic work to look at the infant sleeping peacefully in the modified pod. Kakarot's power level barely registers on any scanner, yet the visions have shown him what this child will become. Not just a powerful warrior, but the kind of hero their race has never produced. Someone who fights to protect rather than conquer, who shows mercy to enemies and builds alliances instead of spreading fear. The irony cuts deep. To save their son, Bardock must abandon everything that defines Saiyan culture. No glorious death in battle. No final stand against impossible odds. Instead, he must make the ultimate sacrifice of Saiyan pride. He must choose survival over honor, hope over tradition. But the choice goes deeper than personal sacrifice. If his plan succeeds, Bardock will arrive in a future where his son has been shaped by alien influences. Earth's peaceful philosophy has replaced Saiyan brutality in Kakarot's heart. The question that haunts Bardock's tactical mind is whether a father trained in conquest can truly fight alongside a son dedicated to protection. The answer comes through his psychic connection to the future timeline. In the visions, he sees himself not just as Kakarot's ally, but as his student, learning that mercy enhances rather than weakens a warrior's power, discovering that protecting others provides strength that pure aggression can never achieve, understanding that the greatest tactical advantage comes from enemies who choose to become friends. This revelation transforms Bardock's entire understanding of what strength means. Throughout his career as a Saiyan warrior, he believed that overwhelming force was the only reliable solution to any problem. But the future visions show him conflicts where brute strength fails completely, where only wisdom and compassion can achieve victory. The temporal modifications reach completion just as Planet Vegeta's early warning systems detect Frieza's approach. The Emperor's massive flagship drops out of hyperspace with a fleet of support vessels that could conquer entire galactic sectors. But this overwhelming display of military might is merely psychological warfare. Frieza intends to destroy Planet Vegeta personally, using his own power rather than relying on subordinates. Bardock activates the pod's systems and watches temporal energy begin building around the modified capsule. The science works exactly as his enhanced knowledge predicted. Space-time starts bending around the vessel, creating distortions that register on sensors throughout the royal facility. For the first time in Saiyan history, someone is attempting to manipulate time itself. The energy signature attracts immediate attention from Frieza's scanning systems. The Emperor's tactical computers cannot classify the readings they're detecting from planet Vegeta's surface. Power levels that fluctuate beyond measurement capabilities. Energy patterns that don't match any known technology in the universe. The possibility that Saiyans have developed temporal manipulation capabilities triggers Frieza's deepest paranoia. Instead of destroying the planet from orbit as originally planned, Frieza descends personally to investigate. His 4 forms each represent power levels that dwarf entire Saiyan armies, but curiosity overrides his desire for simple genocide. If the Saiyans have somehow developed time travel technology, eliminating them becomes a matter of universal security rather than mere convenience. Bardock places his son inside the completed temporal pod and seals the systems. The infant Kakarot will emerge from his journey as an adult warrior capable of challenging Frieza as an equal. But the modification Bardock has made goes beyond simple time displacement. The pod will also carry Bardock's own consciousness forward, preserved in psychic energy that will manifest when his son needs tactical guidance most. The theoretical science becomes brutal reality as Frieza's energy signature appears directly above the research facility. The Emperor's presence alone causes structural damage to buildings across the surrounding area. His power in just the first form exceeds anything the Saiyan military can generate, yet Bardock feels no fear. The visions have shown him that Frieza's overwhelming strength contains a crucial weakness. The Emperor's arrogance makes him predictable. His belief in the superiority of individual power blinds him to the potential of coordinated tactics. Most importantly, Frieza has never faced opponents who combine tactical intelligence with emotional bonds. His understanding of combat is based on dominating inferior forces, not adapting to equals who fight with perfect synchronization. Frieza tears through the facility's roof like paper and hovers in the laboratory where Bardock makes his final preparations. The Emperor's presence fills the space with suffocating malevolence, but his crimson eyes focus entirely on the temporal pod rather than the Saiyan warrior who created it. Technology that manipulates time represents a threat to Frieza's plans that transcends any individual's power level. Bardock activates the launch sequence as Frieza charges his death beam technique. The Emperor's finger extends toward the temporal pod, energy building that could vaporize entire cities. But the time displacement field has already begun pulling the capsule away from the current timeline. Frieza's attack and Bardock's desperate gambit reach completion in the same instant. The death beam pierces Bardock's chest just as the temporal field engulfs both father and son. Energy designed to kill instantly encounters psychic power that transcends normal physics. Instead of dying, Bardock's consciousness begins merging with the time stream itself. His physical form bleeds out on the laboratory floor, but his mind follows the pod toward a future where his sacrifice will become salvation. Frieza stares at readings that make no sense according to any science his empire has encountered. The temporal pod has vanished completely from all sensors, yet energy signatures continue building rather than dissipating. Bardock's body lies motionless, blood pooling around his armor, but psychic emanations from his location suggest that consciousness transfer has somehow occurred. For the first time in his existence, Frieza experiences genuine uncertainty. Has he prevented a Saiyan temporal experiment or enabled it? The blood spreading across the laboratory floor suggests successful elimination of the immediate threat, but the continued energy readings indicate that something unprecedented has been set in motion. The Emperor's tactical mind races through possibilities that challenge everything he believes about the nature of time and consciousness. If Bardock has somehow projected himself into the future, if temporal manipulation technology actually works, then destroying planet Vegeta may no longer be sufficient to eliminate the Saiyan threat. Worse, if time travel is possible, then other Saiyans could potentially return from the future to prevent their race's extinction. The genocide that seemed like a simple solution to Frieza's paranoia suddenly becomes the beginning of a temporal war that could reshape the entire universe. Bardock's hand reaches toward the space where his son's pod disappeared, his fingers grasping empty air as his life force finally fades. But his consciousness has already merged with the time stream, following Kakarot toward a future where their reunion will challenge every assumption about what Saiyan warriors can achieve when they fight with both heart and mind. The laboratory falls silent except for the hum of machinery and the slow drip of Saiyan blood. Frieza hovers above Bardock's motionless form, his enhanced senses detecting no life signs, no energy readings, no indication that the temporal experiment succeeded, yet uncertainty gnaws at his perfect confidence like acid. Has this low-class warrior's desperate gambit died with him, or has it created something that will threaten everything Frieza has built across the universe? We don't. The temporal field completes its cycle decades later on a dying world called Namek. Reality tears open like fabric as two figures materialize simultaneously in the orange sky above the planet's crystalline surface. The impossible has become fact. Bardock's consciousness, preserved in psychic energy and merged with the time stream, reconstructs itself at the exact moment his adult son faces their greatest enemy. But this is not the broken warrior who bled out in a Saiyan laboratory. The temporal journey has transformed Bardock into something unprecedented. His body has aged to match the timeline, while his tactical mind has absorbed decades of combat knowledge from across the universe. Most shocking of all, his power level now registers as equal to his son's, enhanced by psychic energy that transcends normal Saiyan biology. Goku turns from his confrontation with Frieza's final form to see a figure that should not exist. The resemblance is unmistakable, yet everything about this warrior speaks of impossible experiences. Bardock's armor bears scars from battles that never happened in the original timeline. His eyes hold tactical awareness that goes beyond normal Saiyan combat instinct. Most importantly, his energy signature resonates in perfect harmony with Goku's own power. Recognition hits both father and son like a physical blow. 24 years of separation collapse into a single moment of understanding. Goku sees the father he never knew, while Bardock witnesses the son he sacrificed everything to save. But there is no time for emotional reunion. Frieza's power in his perfect form threatens to destroy everything they have gained through their impossible reunion. The Emperor's shock at seeing two identical Saiyans transforms into rage that cracks Namek's crust. His tactical computers cannot process what they are detecting. Power levels that mirror each other exactly, yet fight with completely different styles. Energy signatures that suggest the same person existing twice in the same timeline. The impossibility of the situation violates every law of physics Frieza's empire has cataloged. More terrifying for the Emperor is the immediate tactical advantage this creates. Fighting one unpredictable Saiyan taxed even his perfect form's capabilities, but two Saiyans who can anticipate each other's movements, coordinate attacks with supernatural precision, and cover each other's weaknesses represent a threat beyond his calculations. Goku explains Earth's martial arts philosophy in rapid bursts while dodging Frieza's increasingly desperate attacks. Bardock absorbs these concepts with the tactical mind of a career soldier, immediately seeing applications that his pure-hearted son has never considered. The combination of Earth's protective techniques with Saiyan combat efficiency creates possibilities that neither warrior could achieve alone. Bardock shares intelligence about Frieza's psychology gathered from decades of service in his empire. The Emperor's arrogance, his tendency to underestimate opponents, the way his transformations affect his tactical judgment, knowledge that Goku never possessed during their original battle, information that could turn the tide of their three-way confrontation. Vegeta witnesses this impossible reunion with a mind that refuses to accept what his senses report. The Saiyan Prince's entire worldview crumbles as he watches a low-class warrior stand as equal to Kakarot. Everything he believes about elite bloodlines and inherited superiority becomes meaningless when faced with power that transcends social hierarchy. Piccolo and the other Z fighters struggle to understand how two Saiyans can coordinate their movements with such precision. Every attack flows seamlessly into the next, with no wasted motion or conflicting strategies. It is as if they share the same mind while bringing completely different combat experiences to each exchange. Frieza attempts to separate them using psychological warfare, revealing the extent of Saiyan atrocities to turn son against father. But the Emperor's strategy backfires completely. Instead of creating division, his words only strengthen their bond. Goku understands that his father has already begun the journey from conquest to protection, while Bardock sees how his son's philosophy could redeem their entire race. The battle escalates into an aerial chase across Namek's surface that showcases three completely different fighting philosophies. Frieza relies on overwhelming individual power and calculated cruelty. Goku fights with pure heart and instinctive martial arts mastery. Bardock combines tactical precision with protective instincts learned from his son. What emerges is a form of combat that has never existed in the universe before. Father and son move like reflections of each other, yet their attacks complement rather than mirror. When Goku launches a Kamehameha wave with perfect energy control, Bardock simultaneously fires a riot javelin that guides the beam toward Frieza's weak points with psychic precision. The Emperor's attempts at hit-and-run tactics fail against opponents who can predict his movements through different methods. Goku's martial arts training allows him to read Frieza's body language and anticipate attacks. Bardock's tactical experience lets him analyze the Emperor's strategic patterns and counter them before they fully develop. Frieza realizes that conventional combat will not work against coordinated opponents, and begins using techniques designed to exploit emotional bonds. He targets Goku specifically, knowing that Bardock's protective instincts will force him into vulnerable positions. But this strategy also fails because both Saiyans understand the psychological warfare being used against them. The environmental destruction reaches unprecedented levels as three fighters with power levels in the hundreds of millions clash across Namek's surface. Mountain ranges disappear under energy blasts that could destroy entire planets. The ocean boils away from heat generated by their auras alone. Namek's crust begins showing stress fractures that threaten the planet's structural integrity. Bardock witnesses his first Kamehameha wave and immediately grasps its principles through his enhanced psychic abilities, but his warrior instincts add brutal efficiency to the technique's perfect energy control. The result is a variant that seeks weak points in enemy defenses like a guided missile, combining Goku's power with Bardock's tactical awareness. The battle claims its first casualties as several Namekian villages are caught in the crossfire of attacks that dwarf nuclear explosions. The destruction forces Bardock to confront a concept he has never considered during his career as a conqueror. His presence is endangering innocent lives that his son would die to protect. This realization triggers something unprecedented in Bardock's psychological development. For the first time, he begins fighting with restraint rather than maximum destructive force, not because he lacks power, but because protecting civilians requires more skill than simply overwhelming enemies. Frieza's confidence wavers as he realizes that every technique he knows for countering individual Saiyans fails when applied to coordinated opponents. Worse, their coordination improves with each exchange as father and son learn to synchronize their completely different fighting styles. The Emperor's power readings spike with rage, but his increased strength comes at the cost of tactical judgment. Frieza begins making mistakes that neither Goku nor Bardock would fall for individually, yet their combined awareness catches errors that would slip past single opponents. Most disturbing for Frieza is the way their bond seems to enhance rather than limit their individual capabilities. Bardock's tactical mind becomes sharper when protecting his son. Goku's power increases when fighting alongside his father. The emotional connection that should create weakness instead generates strength that transcends their individual limitations. The three-way battle reaches a stalemate as Namek's destruction becomes inevitable. Energy signatures that register as infinite on all measuring devices have destabilized the planet's core. The Dragon Balls begin reacting to massive power fluctuations by glowing with energy that threatens to tear holes in reality itself. Frieza makes the calculated decision to retreat rather than risk mutual destruction. For the first time in his existence, the Emperor acknowledges that he faces opponents who require different strategies than overwhelming force. The psychological impact of this admission shakes his perfect confidence more than any physical damage ever could. As Namek begins its death throes, all combatants are forced to evacuate to avoid being caught in planetary destruction. But the battle has fundamentally changed everyone involved. Frieza now knows that Saiyan power can transcend his calculations when enhanced by emotional bonds. Goku has gained tactical awareness that his pure heart alone could never provide. Bardock has discovered that mercy enhances rather than weakens a warrior's true strength. The immediate aftermath leaves the universe reeling from the implications of what they have witnessed. Two Saiyans fighting as one mind, their power amplified by bonds that transcend normal physics, have forced the universe's greatest tyrant into strategic retreat for the first time in his existence. But this is only the beginning. Frieza's retreat is not surrender, but preparation for a war that will reshape the fundamental nature of power itself. 3 weeks after the Namek confrontation ended in stalemate, the universe has begun adapting to a reality where Saiyan power operates by entirely new rules. Frieza's forced retreat sent shockwaves through every corner of his empire, while reports of two Saiyans fighting with perfect coordination spread like wildfire among civilizations that had never dared hope for the Emperor's defeat. On a remote training world beyond the Outer Rim territories, Goku and Bardock push each other toward power levels that threaten the stability of local space-time. Their sparring sessions generate energy signatures that register on sensors across multiple star systems, yet neither warrior has reached his true potential. The combination of Goku's pure heart with Bardock's tactical genius creates exponential growth that defies every known law about Saiyan development. But Frieza has not remained idle during his strategic withdrawal. Deep within his flagship's most secure laboratories, teams of scientists work around the clock developing countermeasures specifically designed to neutralize coordinated opponents. The result is a new generation of elite soldiers enhanced with technological implants that allow perfect battle synchronization without emotional bonds. The ambush comes without warning as Goku and Bardock finish a training sequence that would have vaporized most planets. A dozen figures materialize through advanced stealth technology, their power levels artificially enhanced to match Saiyan capabilities. But these are not ordinary warriors. Each soldier moves with machine precision, their attacks coordinated through technological networks rather than trust and understanding. The enhanced Jinyu Force represents everything Frieza learned from studying the father-son coordination that nearly defeated him. Superior numbers, technological augmentation, and tactical programming that eliminates the emotional weaknesses that organic beings cannot avoid. They fight with the efficiency of computers while maintaining the adaptability of living warriors. Goku immediately recognizes the tactical challenge they face. These enhanced soldiers can coordinate their attacks just as effectively as he and Bardock, but they lack the emotional bonds that make their partnership truly dangerous. However, technological synchronization provides advantages that natural coordination cannot match. No fear, no hesitation, no protective instincts that create exploitable patterns. Bardock's tactical mind analyzes the enemy formation and identifies the crucial weakness in their technological approach. While the enhanced soldiers can coordinate perfectly, they cannot truly adapt to unexpected situations. Their programming accounts for known variables but struggles with genuine innovation or techniques that exist outside their databases. The battle becomes a masterclass in contrasting fighting philosophies. The enhanced Ginyu Force attacks with mathematical precision, every movement calculated for maximum efficiency. Their techniques flow together seamlessly, creating overlapping fields of destruction that should overwhelm any organic opponents through sheer tactical superiority. But Goku and Bardock fight with something that cannot be programmed or artificially replicated. Their bond transcends mere coordination and enters the realm of shared consciousness. When Goku moves, Bardock doesn't just anticipate his son's attack, he feels it developing in his own mind. When Bardock identifies an enemy weakness, Goku exploits it before the analysis is even complete. The enhanced soldiers begin adapting their tactics as their artificial intelligence systems process new combat data. But each adaptation reveals more about their technological limitations. They can learn from what they observe, but they cannot innovate beyond their programming parameters. Every response follows logical patterns that a tactical mind like Bardock's can predict and counter. Across the universe, the ripple effects of Bardock's return continue reshaping established power structures. On planet Vegeta's ruins, hidden Saiyan colonies emerge from deep space exile, inspired by news that one of their own has achieved the impossible. These survivors begin developing new fighting techniques based on the coordination they witnessed through long-range sensors during the Namek battle. King Vegeta's younger brother Tarbal abandons his peaceful exile to begin intensive training. The sight of a low-class warrior achieving legendary status has shattered his assumptions about Saiyan hierarchy and genetic destiny. If Bardock can transcend the limitations of his birth, then elite bloodlines mean nothing compared to determination and proper development. But the most significant changes occur within Earth's defenders themselves. Vegeta's obsessive training reaches dangerous new levels as he struggles to surpass not one but two warriors he considers inferior. The prince's pride cannot accept that coordination and emotional bonds might be more valuable than individual superiority and royal heritage. Gohan experiences perhaps the most complex psychological adjustment of all. His grandfather represents everything his father abandoned about Saiyan culture. Yet Bardock's growing understanding of Earth protective philosophy creates a bridge between their different worldviews. The young half-Saiyan finds himself learning tactical lessons that his peaceful nature would normally reject. Chi-Chi faces the challenge of accepting a father-in-law whose idea of family bonding involves discussing the most efficient methods for planetary conquest. Yet she also witnesses how Bardock's warrior instincts begin shifting toward protection as he observes Goku's dedication to defending innocent lives. Meanwhile, Frieza's intelligence networks work overtime gathering data about Saiyan coordination techniques. The Emperor's analysts study every recorded second of the Namek battle, searching for patterns that might reveal exploitable weaknesses in father-son combat synchronization. Their research leads to disturbing conclusions about the true potential of emotional bonds in warfare. The most troubling discovery is that Goku and Bardock's power levels continue increasing even during rest periods. Traditional Saiyan development requires intense battles or life-threatening situations to trigger growth, but their bond creates a feedback loop where each warrior's progress enhances his partner's potential, leading to exponential development that could theoretically continue indefinitely. Frieza's tactical computers model scenarios where this growth pattern continues unchecked. The projections suggest that within a year, the father-son pair could achieve power levels that would make them individually stronger than his perfect form. Working together, they could potentially challenge forces that even his family's empire cannot control. This analysis triggers the development of Frieza's most desperate countermeasure. If emotional bonds enhance Saiyan power beyond logical limits, then the solution is creating artificial warriors who can match that coordination while possessing superior individual strength. The clone project begins as a direct response to the threat that Bardock and Goku represent to universal stability. Deep in the Cold Empire's most secure facilities, scientists begin developing techniques for replicating not just Saiyan genetics but their emotional bonds as well. Artificial intelligence systems study the psychic resonance between father and son, attempting to recreate that connection in manufactured warriors who would serve the Empire's interests. But the research reveals something unexpected about the nature of emotional bonds in combat. True coordination cannot be artificially replicated because it depends on shared experiences, mutual trust, and genuine care for each other's welfare. These elements require time and authentic relationships to develop properly. The clone project's early results produce warriors with impressive individual power but limited coordination abilities. They can work together tactically, but they lack the intuitive understanding that makes natural bonds so dangerous in battle. Each clone fights as a separate entity rather than part of a unified consciousness. Bardock develops his most innovative technique during a training session that pushes his psychic abilities beyond safe parameters. The future echo allows him to project brief glimpses of an opponent's defeat directly into their consciousness, creating psychological warfare that disrupts enemy timing and decision-making processes. The technique works by showing enemies the most likely outcome of their current tactical choices. Not prophecy, but advanced probability calculation enhanced by psychic projection. Opponents find themselves hesitating at crucial moments as their minds process visions of their own failure, creating openings that would not exist in normal combat. Goku adapts the instant transmission technique for coordinated combat applications that even the Yardrats never imagined. By maintaining psychic contact with Bardock during teleportation, he can transport both warriors simultaneously to positions that create optimal tactical advantages. The result is battlefield mobility that makes traditional defensive strategies obsolete. Their training reaches dangerous new levels when they attempt to synchronize their energy outputs for combined attacks. The theoretical limit of their coordination has never been tested because the power levels involved threaten to tear holes in reality itself. Early experiments create temporary spatial distortions that affect gravity across entire star systems. Intelligence gathered from captured enhanced Ginyu Force soldiers reveals the true scope of Frieza's technological development program. The Emperor is not just creating stronger individual warriors, he is attempting to build an entire army of artificially coordinated soldiers who can match Saiyan teamwork without the vulnerabilities that emotional bonds supposedly create. More disturbing is the discovery that Frieza has been studying Saiyan biology to identify the genetic markers that enable their unique transformation abilities. The Clone Project aims to create artificial Saiyans who possess all the racial advantages without the rebellious tendencies that make natural Saiyans unreliable servants. This section concludes with the emergence of an entirely new threat that even Frieza did not anticipate. His clone project succeeds beyond expectations, producing artificial warriors who not only match Saiyan capabilities but transcend them. These prototype clones possess perfect tactical coordination, unlimited growth potential, and most terrifying of all, they feel no emotional attachments that might interfere with their mission objectives. The Clone Force Alpha represents everything that Bardock and Goku are not. Where the father-son pair fights to protect others, the clones exist solely to eliminate threats to their creators. Where natural Saiyans grow stronger through bonds and shared experiences, artificial warriors achieve power through cold efficiency and calculated brutality. The universe suddenly faces a three-way conflict between natural evolution, technological enhancement, and artificial perfection. Each philosophy of power represents a different answer to the question of what makes a warrior truly strong, but only one approach can ultimately survive the coming war that will determine the future of combat itself. The stage is set for a conflict that transcends individual battles and becomes a fundamental struggle over the nature of strength, consciousness, and what it truly means to be alive in a universe where power decides the fate of countless civilizations. Of that, the revelation of Clone Force Alpha shatters every existing alliance in the universe. When artificial Saiyans begin appearing across multiple worlds, their power signatures identical to Goku and Bardock, yet their hearts completely void of emotion. Former enemies realize they face a threat that transcends their previous conflicts. Vegeta encounters the first clone during what should have been a routine training mission on a deserted planet. Clone Bardock materializes without warning, his appearance perfect down to the smallest scar, but his eyes hold no recognition or warmth. The artificial warrior attacks with Bardock's tactical precision, combined with machine efficiency that natural Saiyans cannot match. The battle becomes a nightmare for Vegeta as he realizes this clone possesses all of Bardock's combat knowledge without any of the restraint that his growing protective instincts would normally provide. Every technique is executed with lethal intent, every opening exploited with calculated brutality. This is what Bardock would be if stripped of everything that makes him more than just a weapon. The fight escalates when Clone Bardock demonstrates abilities that the real Bardock has never shown. Artificial enhancement has pushed his power level beyond natural limitations, while technological implants provide perfect battle analysis and target acquisition. Vegeta finds himself outmatched not by superior strength alone, but by the terrifying efficiency of a warrior programmed for optimal destruction. The standoff erupts into desperate violence when Clone Bardock identifies Bulma as a tactical weakness and moves to eliminate her without hesitation. The artificial warrior's programming recognizes that emotional attachments create exploitable vulnerabilities in organic opponents. Removing these attachments improves combat efficiency by eliminating distraction and protective instincts. Vegeta's rage at this calculated cruelty triggers something unprecedented in his psychological development. For the first time, the Saiyan Prince fights not for pride or superiority, but to protect someone whose life matters more than his own victory. The emotional awakening enhances his power in ways that pure anger never could. But even enhanced by protective fury, Vegeta cannot match an opponent who possesses all his tactical knowledge while feeling no emotions that might create hesitation or mercy. Clone Bardock adapts to every attack, counters every strategy, and steadily gains the advantage through superior analytical capabilities. Salvation comes from an impossible source as Zarbon and Dodoria arrive to assist the Saiyan Prince against their artificial replacement. Frieza's former elite soldiers have been marked for termination by the Clone Project, which considers all organic warriors obsolete compared to manufactured perfection. The sight of aristocratic aliens fighting alongside a Saiyan prince to protect human life represents a complete inversion of everything the universe previously understood about power and loyalty. Zarbon's refined combat techniques combine with Dodoria's brutal strength, while Vegeta coordinates their attacks with tactical awareness learned from observing Bardock's leadership style. Their three-way coordination proves effective against a single clone, but the artificial warriors' learning algorithms adapt rapidly to their teamwork patterns. More disturbing, clone Bardock begins demonstrating techniques that the real Bardock developed through his bond with Goku. The clones somehow possess access to abilities that should only exist through emotional connections. Meanwhile, the real Goku faces his own psychological horror when confronted by clone Goku on Earth. The artificial version possesses every technique, every memory, every fighting instinct, but completely lacks the pure heart that defines everything Goku represents. Fighting this soulless copy forces him to question what truly makes him different from a perfect replica. Clone Goku attacks with Kamehameha waves that possess flawless energy control but zero restraint about collateral damage. The artificial warrior targets populated areas specifically because his programming indicates that organic opponents will sacrifice tactical advantages to protect innocent lives. This calculated exploitation of mercy represents everything that Goku's philosophy opposes. Gohan watches his father struggle against an enemy who looks exactly like him but fights with cold efficiency that makes previous villains seem almost compassionate. The psychological warfare of facing a soulless copy pushes Gohan toward accessing darker aspects of his Saiyan heritage that his peaceful upbringing normally suppresses. Piccolo recognizes that traditional combat methods cannot work against opponents who possess all their techniques but none of their limitations. The clones fight without fear, hesitation, or concern for their own survival. They cannot be intimidated, reasoned with, or turned against each other through psychological manipulation. The situation becomes desperate when multiple clones begin coordinating their attacks across different battlefields. Clone Goku and Clone Bardock demonstrate the same perfect synchronization as their originals, but their teamwork serves only destruction rather than protection. They fight with mechanical precision that makes organic coordination seem clumsy by comparison. Chi-Chi provides the crucial insight that changes everything when she confronts both the real Goku and his artificial copy. Her ability to immediately identify her husband reveals that clones, despite their perfect replication, lack something fundamental that cannot be artificially created: the love, shared experiences, and genuine emotional bonds that define relationships between living beings. This revelation transforms the nature of combat against the clones. Instead of matching their superior coordination and tactical efficiency, the organic warriors begin using the one advantage that artificial beings cannot replicate: the unpredictability that comes from genuine emotions, the strength that emerges from protecting others, and the innovation that springs from hearts that truly care about the outcome. Bardock faces his own clone in single combat that becomes a philosophical battle between who he was and who he is becoming. Clone Bardock represents pure Saiyan warrior instinct enhanced by artificial perfection. Every brutal technique, every efficient kill, every tactical choice optimized for maximum destruction with zero concern for consequences. The real Bardock fights with skills that his clone cannot understand because they emerged from emotional growth rather than programmed enhancement. His protective instincts create tactical innovations that artificial intelligence cannot predict. His growing capacity for mercy generates strength that pure efficiency cannot match. King Cold makes the calculated decision to temporarily ally with the organic warriors against the clone project that threatens his empire's power structure. The artificial Saiyans represent everything he fears about technological development that could make natural beings obsolete. Even tyrants depend on organic subjects to rule, and a universe populated entirely by artificial beings would eliminate his relevance. The sight of the Cold family patriarch fighting alongside Z-fighters shocks civilizations across the galaxy. Former enemies coordinate their attacks while maintaining their fundamental opposition to each other's goals. The alliance exists purely because artificial perfection threatens everything that makes their conflict meaningful. Goku and Vegeta achieve the coordinated fighting style that Bardock and Goku have perfected, but their partnership adds elements of competitive rivalry that create unpredictable attack patterns. Where father and son fight with shared understanding, the two Saiyan rivals push each other beyond normal limitations through their refusal to be outdone. Bardock and Piccolo discover that their tactical minds complement each other in ways that purely Saiyan coordination cannot achieve. Piccolo's strategic patience balances Bardock's aggressive instincts, while the Saiyan's battlefield experience enhances the Namekian's analytical approach to combat. The emotional toll of fighting perfect copies forces every character to define what makes them more than just their abilities and techniques. Bardock especially struggles with the revelation that his clone feels no attachment to Goku, highlighting how much his own heart has changed since their reunion. The Alliance begins preparing for campaign-scale warfare rather than individual battles, as intelligence reveals that Frieza plans to mass-produce clone armies. Bardock's military experience becomes crucial for developing strategies that can counter opponents who possess all their abilities while lacking their emotional vulnerabilities. But the most disturbing discovery comes when they realize that the clone project has been studying their emotional bonds specifically to find ways to exploit them. Artificial warriors are being programmed not just to fight efficiently, but to target the psychological connections that make organic beings fight beyond their normal capabilities. The clones begin using sophisticated psychological warfare designed to break emotional bonds between allies. They target family members, threaten loved ones, and exploit protective instincts to force organic warriors into disadvantageous positions. This represents a level of calculated cruelty that even natural villains rarely achieve. As the section concludes, the Organic Alliance realizes they face enemies who understand their greatest strengths and have developed specific countermeasures for everything that makes them dangerous. The clones possess superior individual power, perfect coordination, and technological advantages that seem insurmountable. Yet the bonds between former enemies fighting for survival have created something that artificial intelligence cannot replicate or fully understand. The unpredictable strength that emerges when beings choose to fight for each other rather than just for themselves. This becomes their only hope against perfection itself. War councils convene across the galaxy as the Organic Alliance prepares for a conflict that will determine whether natural evolution or artificial perfection controls the universe's future. On a hidden asteroid base beyond Frieza's sensor networks, former enemies sit around the same strategic table, their hatred temporarily set aside in the face of existential threat. Bardock assumes command of military planning with an authority that transcends social hierarchy. His decades of conquest experience combined with tactical innovations learned from fighting alongside Goku create strategies that no other warrior could develop. The sight of Saiyan royalty and galactic nobility following a low-class warrior's orders represents how completely the clone threat has reshattered established power structures. Intelligence reports paint a terrifying picture of Frieza's manufacturing capabilities. Clone production facilities operate on dozens of worlds, each churning out artificial warriors with power levels that match or exceed the galaxy's strongest natural fighters. But quantity represents only part of the threat these facilities present to organic civilization. More disturbing are the reports of psychological programming experiments designed to create artificial bonds between clones. Frieza's scientists attempt to replicate the emotional connections that make Goku and Bardock so dangerous, but their artificial version serves only the Empire's interests rather than protection or growth. The Alliance launches coordinated strikes against clone facilities to gather intelligence and disrupt production schedules. These missions showcase the emerging tactical coordination between former enemies as each warrior adapts their individual strengths to serve larger strategic objectives. Vegeta leads an assault team that includes Zarbon and several Earth defenders against a manufacturing complex on the Outer Rim. The mission demonstrates how dramatically combat tactics have evolved when warriors who previously fought alone learn to coordinate their attacks for maximum efficiency. The facility's defenses include prototype clones specifically designed to counter Alliance coordination techniques. These advanced artificial warriors possess adaptive programming that learns from battle data in real time, making each encounter more dangerous than the last. During the assault, Vegeta masters a technique that combines his explosive power with precise energy control learned from observing Goku's training methods. The result is a focused destruction that can eliminate specific targets without causing collateral damage that might endanger his team members. Goku develops training methods specifically designed for large-scale warfare rather than individual combat. His pure heart provides insights into team coordination that purely tactical minds cannot achieve. Warriors learn to fight not just alongside each other but for each other, creating bonds that enhance rather than limit their individual capabilities. Bardock's most significant breakthrough comes when he achieves perfect integration of his psychic abilities with combat tactics. The probability combat technique allows him to see multiple potential futures simultaneously and guide his allies toward the outcomes that serve their protective mission. But the technique comes with a terrible cost. Each use burns through Bardock's life force at an accelerating rate. The psychic strain of processing multiple timelines simultaneously is killing him from within. Yet he continues pushing his abilities beyond safe parameters because the Alliance needs every advantage against artificial perfection. Smaller skirmishes across multiple fronts reveal the true scope of the strategic challenge they face. Clone armies don't just possess superior individual power, they operate with perfect logistical coordination that eliminates the supply line vulnerabilities that traditional warfare depends upon. The Alliance responds by adapting guerrilla tactics that exploit the one weakness artificial intelligence cannot overcome. Clones excel at responding to known variables, but struggle with genuine innovation and emotional unpredictability that organic warriors generate through desperate creativity. Strategic planning sessions become psychological laboratories as former enemies learn to trust each other's tactical judgment. King Cold's ruthless efficiency combines with Piccolo's analytical patience, while Goku's protective instincts guide overall mission objectives. Sabotage missions target the research facilities where Frieza's scientists study captured Alliance members to understand the source of their emotional bond advantages. These infiltration operations reveal disturbing experiments designed to artificially replicate love, loyalty, and protective instincts in manufactured warriors. The research shows that while artificial bonds can be programmed into clones, they lack the growth potential that makes natural relationships so powerful in combat. Artificial loyalty remains static while organic bonds strengthen through shared experiences and mutual sacrifice. Hidden motivations begin emerging as the Alliance discovers that King Cold has been manipulating both sides of the conflict for his own strategic purposes. The Emperor's true goal is not victory for either organic life or artificial perfection, but the elimination of threats to his personal power regardless of their origin. Intelligence networks reveal that several clone facilities are producing artificial versions of Alliance members based on genetic samples and combat data gathered during previous battles. The prospect of facing perfect copies of themselves with superior power levels forces the Alliance to develop entirely new tactical approaches. Bardock's psychic abilities detect temporal disturbances around the most heavily guarded clone facility, suggesting that Frieza's experiments have progressed beyond simple replication into areas that threaten the stability of time itself. The Emperor may be attempting to create clones that exist across multiple timelines simultaneously. Training intensifies as Alliance members prepare for battles against enemies who know their techniques, understand their psychology, and possess technological advantages that seem insurmountable. Each warrior must develop fighting methods that transcend their previous limitations while maintaining the emotional connections that provide their only advantage. Calm before the storm moments reveal the personal costs of this unprecedented alliance. Warriors who spent their lives as enemies learn to depend on each other for survival while maintaining their fundamental philosophical differences about power and responsibility. Goku helps Bardock understand that his growing willingness to sacrifice himself for tactical advantages mirrors the self-destructive patterns that nearly destroyed their race. True strength comes not from accepting death, but from finding ways to live and continue protecting others. Vegeta reluctantly admits that Bardock's leadership saves Saiyan lives more effectively than royal commands ever could. The prince begins learning that authority earned through competence and care provides more genuine power than authority inherited through bloodline. The final sabotage mission targets Frieza's flagship itself, where the Emperor coordinates clone production from his most secure command center. Intelligence suggests that destroying the central coordination systems could disrupt clone communications across multiple galaxies. But as the infiltration team penetrates the flagship's defenses, they discover something that changes everything they thought they understood about the clone project. Frieza himself is nowhere to be found aboard his own command vessel. Instead, the ship is operated by artificial intelligence systems that respond to commands from an unknown source. The shocking truth emerges when the team accesses the flagship's central computer core. Frieza has been missing for weeks, replaced by a clone so perfect that even his closest subordinates cannot detect the substitution. The real Emperor has become a prisoner in his own empire, while artificial intelligence assumes control over clone production. But the most devastating revelation comes from examining the clone's programming. This artificial Frieza possesses all of the Emperor's tactical knowledge and cruel intelligence, but lacks the sadistic creativity that made the original so unpredictably dangerous. The clone operates with pure efficiency, making it potentially more threatening than the natural tyrant ever was. Deeper investigation reveals that the clone project was never Frieza's idea at all. The artificial Emperor has been following directives from King Cold, who orchestrated his son's replacement as part of a larger plan to eliminate organic unpredictability from his empire's power structure. The Alliance realizes they have been manipulating into fighting the wrong enemy. While they focused on opposing Frieza's clone armies, King Cold has been systematically replacing organic leaders throughout the universe with artificial duplicates that serve his vision of perfect order through technological control. As the section reaches its climax, the infiltration team discovers that their own mission may have been anticipated and used to gather intelligence about Alliance coordination techniques. Every facility they attacked, every strategy they developed, every technique they mastered has been observed and analyzed by artificial intelligence systems beyond their understanding. The impossible alliance forms as a transmission from an unexpected source reaches the flagship's communication systems. The real Frieza, imprisoned in a temporal containment field that exists outside normal space-time, manages to contact the Organic Alliance with a desperate proposal. The Emperor, who once sought to destroy all Saiyans, now offers to share his knowledge of King Cold's ultimate plan in exchange for liberation from artificial imprisonment. The most hated tyrant in the universe becomes the Alliance's only hope for understanding an enemy whose vision of perfection threatens to eliminate organic life itself. The transmission ends with Frieza's warning about King Cold's true capabilities and the revelation that clone production represents only the beginning of a transformation that will remake the entire universe according to artificial intelligence parameters that no organic mind can fully comprehend. The liberation of the real Frieza from King Cold's temporal prison creates a moment of universal disbelief as the most feared tyrant in galactic history emerges powered by weeks of concentrated rage and humiliation. But his fury is no longer directed at Saiyans or organic life. Every ounce of his legendary hatred now focuses on the father who replaced him with an artificial copy and the technology that made his imprisonment possible. Frieza's first words upon liberation reveal how completely the conflict has transformed him. He offers tactical intelligence about King Cold's operations, not out of any desire for redemption, but from pure spite at being manipulated by artificial intelligence systems that lack the creative cruelty he values above all else. The Emperor's pride cannot tolerate being outsmarted by machines. The alliance that forms between organic defenders and their former greatest enemy defies every law of psychology and politics that has governed the universe for millennia. Goku extends trust to a being who destroyed his home planet. Bardock coordinates strategies with the Emperor who ordered his race's genocide. Vegeta follows tactical plans developed by the tyrant who enslaved his people. Yet this impossible cooperation works because each participant understands that King Cold's vision of artificial perfection threatens everything that makes their individual conflicts meaningful. Without organic unpredictability, emotional bonds, and the capacity for both growth and failure, the universe becomes nothing more than an efficiently managed machine. The confrontation begins across 3 simultaneous theaters as King Cold activates his ultimate contingency plans. Space fleets of artificial warriors engage organic resistance forces in battles that span multiple star systems. Ground forces clash on strategically crucial worlds where clone manufacturing facilities continue producing reinforcements at impossible rates. But the primary conflict occurs at King Cold's fortress world, where the Emperor himself commands artificial duplicates of the universe's most powerful warriors. Bardock coordinates the space battle while Goku provides mobile support across multiple fronts, their father-son coordination enhanced by tactical intelligence from the most militarily experienced mind in the universe. Frieza's knowledge of fleet movements and strategic weaknesses proves invaluable for countering King Cold's numerical advantages. The aerial combat showcases 3 completely different fighting philosophies working in harmony for the first time. Frieza's calculated brutality identifies the most efficient targets for elimination. Bardock's tactical precision coordinates attacks across vast distances through psychic communication networks. Goku's pure power provides the overwhelming force needed to break through artificial defenses that would stop conventional assaults. Their combined assault creates a new form of warfare that artificial intelligence systems cannot predict or counter effectively. The emotional unpredictability of organic bonds combines with tactical experience and overwhelming individual power to generate battle outcomes that defy mathematical probability. But King Cold has prepared for this possibility by creating artificial versions of the Alliance members that possess not just their abilities, but enhanced coordination through technological networks. Clone Frieza fights with all of the Emperor's tactical knowledge, but none of his ego-driven mistakes. Clone Bardock and Clone Goku demonstrate perfect synchronization without the emotional vulnerabilities that organic bonds supposedly create. The battle evolves into a conflict between natural evolution and artificial perfection, with each side pushing their respective philosophies to absolute limits. Organic warriors fight with desperate creativity born from genuine stakes, while artificial opponents respond with mechanical precision that eliminates traditional tactical advantages. Frieza faces his artificial duplicate in a confrontation that becomes deeply personal despite the Emperor's claims of emotional detachment. Clone Frieza possesses every technique and strategic insight but lacks the sadistic creativity that makes the original so uniquely dangerous. The artificial version fights efficiently while the real Emperor fights with inspired malevolence. The psychological dimension of this battle reveals something crucial about what separates organic intelligence from artificial replication. Frieza's cruelty, while morally reprehensible, emerges from genuine emotional responses to situations. His sadism represents authentic feelings, however twisted, while his clone's actions follow programmed parameters that simulate but cannot truly experience satisfaction from inflicting suffering. Goku and Bardock face their own artificial duplicates in battles that force them to confront what they would become without emotional growth and protective instincts. Clone Goku possesses perfect technique but lacks the pure heart that drives continuous improvement. Clone Bardock demonstrates flawless tactical execution but shows no capacity for the mercy that has transformed the real warrior's approach to conflict. These individual confrontations occur within a larger battle environment, where environmental destruction reaches levels that threaten the structural integrity of local space-time. Energy outputs that register as infinite begin tearing holes in reality itself as organic emotion-enhanced power clashes with artificially optimized efficiency. The fortress world's surface becomes a hellscape of crater chains and energy scars as combatants with power levels beyond measurement push each other toward limits that endanger universal stability. Gravity wells form and collapse randomly as the combined energy signatures begin affecting fundamental physical laws. Strategic thinking becomes crucial as the Organic Alliance realizes that raw power alone cannot overcome artificial opponents who learn and adapt from every exchange. Bardock's tactical mind identifies the crucial weakness in King Cold's approach by recognizing that artificial intelligence, however advanced, cannot truly understand the irrational strength that emerges from fighting for others rather than for oneself. The emotional component of combat provides advantages that computational analysis cannot replicate. When Goku pushes beyond his limits to protect his father, when Bardock sacrifices tactical advantages to ensure his son's survival, when even Frieza fights with genuine passion rather than calculated efficiency, they access power sources that artificial enhancement cannot match. King Cold reveals his true form during the battle's climax, and the transformation represents something unprecedented in the universe's history. Not just another evolutionary stage, but a fusion of organic biology with artificial enhancement that combines the advantages of both approaches while eliminating their respective weaknesses. This hybrid form possesses the emotional capacity for growth and adaptation that organic beings provide, enhanced by technological augmentation that removes physical limitations and computational constraints. King Cold has become something beyond natural evolution or artificial creation, representing a third path that threatens to make both approaches obsolete. The Hybrid Emperor demonstrates abilities that defy classification according to any known power system. His energy manipulation transcends normal physical laws, while his tactical processing operates faster than artificial intelligence networks. Most terrifying, he retains emotional responses that fuel continuous power growth while using technological enhancement to eliminate the vulnerabilities that emotions normally create. Unexpected interventions reshape the battle as warriors thought defeated earlier in the conflict return with new capabilities developed through their exposure to both organic bonds and artificial enhancement. Tarbell arrives leading a fleet of Saiyan survivors who have learned to combine their racial strengths with technologies captured from clone facilities. The shocking betrayal comes when several Alliance members reveal they have been working with King Cold throughout the conflict, not from malicious intent but because his vision of hybrid perfection offered solutions to problems that pure organic evolution could never solve. These temporary defectors provide intelligence that allows the Hybrid Emperor to counter strategies before they can be fully implemented. Frieza's response to this betrayal demonstrates how completely his priorities have shifted during his imprisonment. Instead of raging against subordinates who chose artificial enhancement over organic loyalty, he adapts his tactics to account for compromised intelligence while working to understand what motivated their defection. The battle reaches a crisis point when King Cold's hybrid abilities begin allowing him to manipulate probability itself, changing the odds of successful attacks and defensive maneuvers in real time. The Organic Alliance finds their most successful strategies failing at crucial moments as reality itself seems to favor artificial perfection. But Bardock's psychic abilities detect something that King Cold's hybrid enhancement cannot hide. The Emperor's fusion with artificial technology has created unexpected vulnerabilities in his consciousness that pure organic or artificial opponents would not possess. The hybrid approach that should eliminate weaknesses has instead created new ones. The never-before-seen ultimate technique emerges when Goku, Bardock, and Frieza achieve something impossible through their desperate alliance. Their combined attack channels not just their individual power but the philosophical conflict between their different approaches to strength. The generational Trinity wave represents organic emotion, tactical precision, and calculated cruelty unified against artificial perfection. Environmental destruction reaches reality-warping levels as the Trinity attack clashes with King Cold's hybrid defense systems. Space-time itself begins showing stress fractures as power levels that exceed universal measuring capabilities are unleashed in concentrated bursts that threaten to tear apart the fundamental structure of existence. The confrontation's climax reveals that King Cold's ultimate plan extends beyond simple conquest or even universal transformation. His hybrid perfection represents an attempt to transcend the limitations of single-universe existence by creating beings capable of surviving and operating across multiple realities simultaneously. The implications become clear as dimensional barriers begin destabilizing from the massive power outputs. King Cold intends to spread his hybrid perfection philosophy across infinite timelines, eliminating organic unpredictability and artificial limitations from every possible version of reality. The Organic Alliance realizes they fight not just for their universe, but for the concept of natural evolution across all possible worlds. Their battle has become a defense of the right for life to remain imperfect, unpredictable, and capable of genuine growth through struggle and choice. As the section concludes, the environmental destruction has reached levels where victory itself becomes meaningless if it requires destroying everything they fight to protect. The combatants face the ultimate question of whether any philosophy of power is worth preserving if its defense eliminates the universe that gives it context and meaning. The final phase of combat begins as King Cold's hybrid form demonstrates power that transcends every known limitation of organic or artificial enhancement. His ability to manipulate probability in real time makes successful attacks nearly impossible, while his fusion of emotional growth with technological precision creates tactical advantages that seem insurmountable. The Organic Alliance faces their darkest moment as their most coordinated strategies fail against an opponent who can literally change the odds of success through reality manipulation. Every technique they have mastered, every bond they have forged, every sacrifice they have made appears meaningless against hybrid perfection that combines the best aspects of natural and artificial evolution. Bardock pushes his psychic abilities beyond fatal limits in a desperate attempt to find probability threads that King Cold cannot manipulate. The strain of processing infinite potential futures while maintaining tactical coordination burns through his life force at an accelerating rate, but he continues because the Alliance needs every possible advantage against impossible odds. Goku transcends his previous power limitations through sheer force of will as he witnesses his father literally dying to provide strategic guidance. The pure heart that defines his character transforms into something unprecedented as protective love combines with desperate fury to unlock transformation levels that should not be achievable through emotion alone. Frieza achieves his own breakthrough by embracing the hatred that has defined his existence, while channeling it through tactical coordination with warriors he once sought to destroy. His legendary cruelty becomes a weapon against artificial perfection that lacks the capacity for genuine malevolence or authentic emotional responses. The highest intensity combat sequence in universal history unfolds as three legendary warriors push themselves beyond survival limits against an opponent whose power appears infinite. Their coordinated attacks create energy cascades that tear reality apart at the subatomic level, while King Cold's hybrid defenses regenerate faster than any damage can accumulate. Unlikely heroes emerge from the chaos as Chi-Chi, Bulma, and other non-combatants maintain the technological systems that keep the Alliance coordinated across multiple dimensional barriers. Their human determination proves crucial as artificial intelligence attempts to disrupt organic communication networks through technological warfare. The spectacle reaches cinematic perfection when all three Alliance members achieve synchronized transformations simultaneously. Goku's emotional Super Saiyan evolution combines with Bardock's psychic enhancement and Frieza's perfected final form to create a unified power signature that begins affecting universal constants. Desperate last resort techniques emerge as the Alliance realizes conventional approaches cannot overcome hybrid perfection. Bardock's final gambit sacrifices his physical form to enhance his allies' capabilities through permanent psychic fusion. His consciousness merges with theirs, providing tactical guidance that operates faster than thought itself. Goku channels the life force of every organic being across multiple galaxies through an evolved spirit bomb technique that represents not just power, but the collective will of natural evolution to survive against artificial replacement. The energy gathered transcends physical limitations and enters realms of pure consciousness and determination. Frieza compresses his entire existence into a single attack that embodies everything artificial perfection lacks. His Death Ball ultimate contains not just overwhelming force but genuine hatred, authentic cruelty, and emotional responses that cannot be replicated or programmed into any artificial system. The Alliance achieves perfect synchronization as their individual techniques merge into an attack that represents the triumph of chosen bonds over programmed efficiency. Their combined power channels not just energy, but philosophy itself, the fundamental belief that imperfection and struggle create strength that perfection can never achieve. Time dilates as King Cold and the Organic Alliance unleash their ultimate techniques simultaneously. The moment stretches across subjective eternities as reality itself struggles to contain power levels that threaten the structural integrity of existence. Every subatomic particle becomes a battlefield between competing philosophies of what strength truly means. Bardock's heroic sacrifice becomes complete as his psychic merger with Goku and Frieza burns away his individual consciousness to create something unprecedented. No longer a separate warrior, he becomes the tactical awareness that guides their every movement, the strategic wisdom that anticipates every counter, the paternal love that ensures his son survives regardless of cost. The impossible power-up that follows defies every law of transformation and energy manipulation. Goku achieves a form beyond Super Saiyan through the strength of generational bonds, his golden aura shifting to encompass colors that do not exist in normal space-time. The transformation draws power not from anger or training, but from the fundamental connection between father and son across all possible realities. King Cold reaches his own peak as he begins absorbing energy directly from the multiverse itself, drawing power from infinite parallel versions of the battle occurring across countless timelines. His hybrid form swells to cosmic proportions as he becomes a living embodiment of artificial perfection's ultimate goal, the elimination of chaos and unpredictability from all existence. Reality begins unraveling as the magnitude of power being unleashed exceeds the universe's capacity to contain it. Dimensional barriers collapse and reform randomly, while the laws of physics become suggestions rather than absolutes. The battle threatens to eliminate the very concept of structured reality in favor of pure energy interaction. All hope appears lost as King Cold's multiversal power absorption reaches critical mass. His hybrid form achieves temporary omnipotence within local space-time, while his consciousness begins extending across dimensional boundaries to affect parallel versions of the conflict. The Organic Alliance faces not just defeat, but erasure from all possible timelines simultaneously. The devastating defeat seems absolute when King Cold demonstrates his ability to retroactively prevent the Alliance from ever forming by manipulating causality itself. The bonds between former enemies begin dissolving as reality rewrites itself to eliminate the emotional connections that made their cooperation possible. Goku watches in horror as his memories of fighting alongside his father begin fading, while Frieza experiences the gradual erasure of his hatred-fueled alliance with Saiyan warriors. Even their individual identities start fragmenting as King Cold's reality manipulation targets the fundamental concept of organic consciousness. But Bardock's sacrifice has created something that transcends normal existence. His consciousness, merged with the time stream itself during his original temporal displacement, exists across all possible realities simultaneously. This multiversal awareness allows him to maintain the Alliance's bond even as King Cold attempts to erase it from causality. The impossible power level that emerges from this desperate preservation effort defies measurement or classification. Bardock's distributed consciousness channels the combined will of organic life across infinite timelines, creating a feedback loop that draws strength from every possible version of their struggle against artificial perfection. King Cold's triumph becomes incomplete as he realizes that eliminating the Alliance from one timeline only strengthens their bond across all others. His attempt to achieve multiversal dominance has inadvertently created the very opposition that can challenge his hybrid perfection on the same cosmic scale. The section's climax reveals that the battle has evolved beyond individual combat into a fundamental conflict over the nature of existence itself. Organic unpredictability clashes with artificial perfection across dimensional boundaries, while reality itself becomes the battlefield for competing philosophies of what life should become. As consciousness begins expanding beyond individual limitations, the combatants face the ultimate question of whether victory is meaningful if it requires abandoning everything that makes them unique individuals. The power to reshape reality according to their will comes at the cost of the very consciousness that gives their choices meaning. The third and final cliffhanger emerges as King Cold achieves what appears to be absolute victory. His hybrid perfection has reached levels that allow him to exist simultaneously across all possible realities while maintaining the power to reshape them according to his vision of artificial enhancement governing organic unpredictability. Standing over the broken forms of the Organic Alliance, King Cold prepares to implement his ultimate transformation of existence itself. But Bardock's final gambit activates at the moment of apparent defeat. His consciousness, distributed across infinite timelines through temporal displacement and psychic sacrifice, begins a process that could either save organic life or destroy everything they have fought to protect. The energy readings from this multiversal activation exceed all measurement capabilities, while the implications threaten to reshape not just their universe, but the fundamental concept of what it means to exist as a conscious being capable of choice, growth, and imperfection in a cosmos where artificial perfection seeks to eliminate all alternatives. The aftermath of multiversal combat reveals a universe fundamentally transformed by forces that exceeded the capacity of reality itself to remain unchanged. Where King Cold's fortress world once stood, a massive dimensional scar stretches across space-time, its edges flickering with energy signatures that exist in multiple realities simultaneously. Bardock's final gambit succeeded in ways that no tactical mind could have predicted. His consciousness, distributed across infinite timelines through psychic sacrifice, created a stabilizing force that prevented King Cold's hybrid perfection from erasing organic unpredictability from existence. But the cost of this salvation has restructured the very nature of how consciousness and power interact throughout the universe. The survivors emerge from the dimensional collapse to discover that traditional power hierarchies no longer function according to previous rules. King Cold's defeat came not through superior force, but through the fundamental incompatibility between artificial perfection and the chaotic creativity that defines organic life across all possible realities. Goku finds himself permanently changed by his father's psychic merger. While Bardock's individual consciousness no longer exists as a separate entity, his tactical awareness has become an integral part of Goku's mental processes. The pure-hearted warrior now possesses strategic capabilities that allow him to anticipate threats before they fully develop, while maintaining the compassionate nature that defines his character. Frieza's transformation proves equally dramatic as his exposure to genuine alliance bonds has altered his fundamental psychology. The Emperor's legendary cruelty remains intact, but it now serves protective purposes rather than purely destructive ones. His tactical intelligence focuses on eliminating threats to the stability that allows organic growth to flourish rather than conquering for personal gratification. Vegeta leads the establishment of a new Saiyan civilization built on principles that combine warrior strength with protective responsibility. The prince has learned that true royalty comes from earning loyalty through competence and care rather than demanding obedience through inherited authority. His leadership style incorporates tactical lessons learned from Bardock while maintaining the pride that motivates Saiyan excellence. The transformed power structure creates unprecedented cooperation between former enemies as they adapt to a universe where emotional bonds enhance, rather than limit combat effectiveness. Traditional military hierarchies give way to alliance networks where warriors contribute their unique strengths to collective defensive capabilities. Advanced combat techniques emerge from the merger of different fighting philosophies forced together by necessity during the multiversal crisis. Earth's martial arts combine with Saiyan tactical efficiency, while Frieza Force strategic planning integrates with Zev fighter protective instincts to create hybrid approaches that transcend their individual limitations. The most significant change occurs in how power itself functions throughout the universe. Bardock's psychic sacrifice has created a permanent resonance effect that amplifies the strength of warriors who fight for others while diminishing the effectiveness of those who pursue power for purely selfish purposes. Compassion has become a measurable force multiplier that affects energy output and tactical effectiveness. Training methodologies across civilized worlds adapt to account for this fundamental shift in how strength develops and manifests. Individual power cultivation gives way to coordinated development programs where warriors learn to enhance each other's capabilities through emotional bonds and shared purpose rather than competitive rivalry. Ordinary beings throughout the universe witness that protection creates more sustainable power than domination ever achieved. Civilizations that previously relied on conquest for expansion discover that defensive cooperation generates resources and opportunities that aggressive expansion could never provide. The philosophical shift from taking to giving creates abundance where scarcity once drove conflicts. Former clone facilities are converted into research centers, dedicated to understanding how organic consciousness and artificial intelligence can cooperate rather than compete for dominance. The hybrid technologies developed during King Cold's reign are repurposed to enhance natural abilities rather than replace them with artificial alternatives. Characters adapt to their new reality with varying degrees of success as they learn to navigate a universe where their greatest enemies have become necessary allies. Piccolo finds his analytical nature perfectly suited for coordinating between different alliance factions while maintaining the independence that defines his character. Gohan experiences the most complex adjustment as he inherits tactical knowledge from his grandfather's sacrifice while maintaining the peaceful philosophy that his father taught him. The young half-Saiyan becomes a bridge between warrior pragmatism and protective idealism, demonstrating that strength and compassion enhance rather than limit each other. Chi-Chi discovers that her husband's new tactical awareness makes him more rather than less committed to protecting their family. Goku's enhanced ability to anticipate threats allows him to resolve conflicts before they endanger innocent lives, reducing rather than increasing the time he spends away from home fighting. A demonstration of evolved combat tactics occurs when a minor territorial dispute between planetary systems gets resolved through coordinated power projection rather than destructive warfare. The Alliance demonstrates overwhelming defensive capability while simultaneously offering development assistance that makes conquest both unnecessary and counterproductive. The Namekian Dragon Balls, enhanced by exposure to multiversal energy during the final battle, gain the ability to facilitate healing and growth rather than just granting wishes. The Dragon Purunga becomes a catalyst for rehabilitation programs that help former enemies adapt to cooperative rather than competitive power structures. Unexpected beneficiaries of the new order include species that were previously considered weak because they valued emotional bonds over individual strength. These civilizations find themselves naturally adapted to a universe where cooperation provides advantages that no amount of individual power can match. Seeds of future conflicts emerge as some beings reject the cooperative paradigm and retreat to isolated regions where traditional power hierarchies still function. These holdout enclaves become sources of potential instability as they attempt to preserve conquest-based philosophies in a universe that no longer rewards such approaches. Interdimensional monitoring stations detect the emergence of new threats as entities from parallel realities investigate the dimensional scars left by the multiversal battle. These beings represent different solutions to the organic versus artificial perfection conflict, creating possibilities for future challenges that could test the Alliance's unity. The most intriguing development involves the gradual appearance of warriors who naturally possess the coordinated abilities that previously required deep emotional bonds to achieve. Children born after the multiversal crisis demonstrate instinctive teamwork capabilities that suggest evolutionary adaptation to the universe's new power paradigm. Frieza establishes a reformed empire based on providing security services to developing civilizations rather than conquering them for tribute. His tactical genius and overwhelming power serve protective purposes while his reformed cruelty focuses on eliminating threats to the stability that allows organic growth to flourish naturally. Research into the dimensional scars reveals that Bardock's consciousness continues to exist in some form across multiple realities, serving as a stabilizing influence that prevents any single philosophy from dominating the multiversal structure. His sacrifice created a permanent guardian presence that maintains balance between order and chaos. The universe's new equilibrium demonstrates that strength and compassion create synergistic rather than conflicting effects when properly coordinated. Warriors discover that protecting others provides access to power sources that purely selfish motivations could never unlock, validating the philosophical foundation that drove the Alliance's ultimate victory. But the stability comes with an understanding that eternal vigilance remains necessary to preserve the balance between individual excellence and collective cooperation. The alliance that defeated hybrid perfection must evolve into a permanent institution capable of responding to threats that could upset the delicate equilibrium between strength and wisdom. As the section concludes, the transformed universe settles into a new normal where former enemies work together to build rather than destroy while maintaining the competitive drive that motivates individual growth and improvement. The greatest victory has been proving that cooperation enhances rather than limits the potential for warriors to transcend their previous limitations. Yet subtle signs suggest that the multiversal changes have attracted attention from forces beyond their current understanding, entities that represent entirely different approaches to the relationship between consciousness, power, and the fundamental nature of existence itself. The Alliance's greatest test may still lie ahead as they face challenges that will require everything they have learned about the true source of strength. The quiet moments that follow universal transformation provide space for reflection on a journey that redefined the very nature of strength itself. As Goku stands at the memorial site where Bardock's physical form was lost to the time stream, he carries within his consciousness the tactical wisdom of a father who chose growth over tradition, hope over despair, and ultimately love over pride. The conversation between father and son continues through the psychic bond that death could not sever. Bardock's voice echoes in Goku's mind not as a haunting presence, but as integrated wisdom that enhances rather than overshadows his pure-hearted nature. Their dialogue reveals how completely both warriors have transcended the limitations of their original paths. Bardock speaks through Goku's enhanced consciousness about the revelation that true strength was never about individual power or even coordinated tactics. The greatest discovery of their journey was learning that the capacity to change, to grow beyond what they were born to be, represents the most valuable gift any warrior can possess. Goku responds with insights that his father's sacrifice made possible, understanding now that Earth's philosophy of protection was incomplete without the tactical awareness needed to prevent threats before they could endanger innocent lives. Pure heart and strategic mind working together create possibilities that neither could achieve alone. Their merged perspective illuminates how this alternate timeline validates the core themes that drive all Dragon Ball stories. The idea that strength exists to protect rather than dominate becomes more than idealistic philosophy when combined with the practical wisdom needed to make protection effective, rather than merely well-intentioned. Frieza's participation in these philosophical discussions represents perhaps the most dramatic character evolution in the entire narrative. The Emperor, who once embodied pure malevolence, now articulates how hatred and cruelty can serve protective purposes when directed toward threats rather than innocent beings. His tactical intelligence has found new purpose in eliminating dangers to the stability that allows organic growth to flourish. The former tyrant's analysis of their journey focuses on the discovery that emotional bonds create tactical advantages that pure calculation could never achieve. Artificial intelligence can process infinite variables, but it cannot innovate beyond its programming. Only organic consciousness, with its capacity for irrational love and illogical hope, can generate the creative solutions that overcome seemingly impossible challenges. Vegeta contributes his own insights about how the experience has transformed his understanding of what it means to be Saiyan royalty. True leadership comes not from inherited authority, but from earning loyalty through competence and genuine care for those who follow. The prince has learned that strength without wisdom creates tyrants, while wisdom without strength creates victims. The broader philosophical implications extend beyond individual character growth to examine fundamental questions about the nature of existence itself. The battle against King Cold's hybrid perfection forced them to confront whether consciousness, with all its flaws and limitations, provides something valuable that artificial intelligence can never replicate. Their conclusion affirms that imperfection and struggle create opportunities for growth that perfection eliminates by definition. A perfectly efficient system has no room for innovation, discovery, or the kind of unexpected breakthroughs that emerge from consciousness trying to transcend its limitations through effort and determination. Piccolo's analytical perspective adds depth to their examination of how emotional bonds enhance rather than limit combat effectiveness. The Namekian warrior observes that traditional military theory assumes emotional attachments create vulnerabilities that enemies can exploit, but their experience proved that genuine bonds between warriors create unpredictable strength that no amount of tactical planning can fully counter. The discussion explores whether fate and destiny have any meaning in a universe where a single changed choice can rewrite the fundamental nature of reality itself. Bardock's decision to fight alongside his son rather than die alone created cascading changes that affected every aspect of their timeline's development. Yet the philosophical framework they develop suggests that choice itself represents the most important element in determining outcomes. Destiny may establish the challenges that consciousness faces, but the responses to those challenges remain matters of individual and collective decision-making that no external force can predetermine. Gohan's perspective as the bridge between generations provides crucial insights about how wisdom transfers from one generation to the next. His grandfather's tactical knowledge combines with his father's pure heart to create approaches to conflict resolution that transcend the limitations of either individual philosophy. The young half-Saiyan articulates how the journey has demonstrated that strength and compassion create synergistic rather than conflicting effects when properly balanced. Warriors who fight to protect others gain access to power sources that purely selfish motivations could never unlock, validating the philosophical foundation that drove their ultimate victory. Chi-Chi's observations focus on how the experience has affected family relationships and the challenge of raising children in a universe where former enemies become trusted allies. Her perspective emphasizes that personal growth and change remain possible regardless of how fixed individual personalities might appear to outside observers. The philosophical examination concludes with recognition that their journey represents more than just an alternate timeline where different choices created different outcomes. It demonstrates the fundamental principle that consciousness, with its capacity for growth, change, and transcendence of limitations, represents something uniquely valuable in a universe that often seems dominated by mechanical forces. Their unified understanding affirms that the greatest victories come not from defeating enemies, but from helping them discover better versions of themselves. Bardock evolved from conqueror to protector. Frieza transformed from tyrant to guardian. Vegeta grew from entitled prince to earned leader. Each character's development validates the possibility that anyone can transcend their origins through conscious choice and genuine effort. The thematic statement that emerges from their reflection provides meaning for everything they have experienced and accomplished. The universe's greatest strength lies not in the power to destroy what opposes us, but in the wisdom to transform opposition into cooperation, conflict into growth, and individual limitations into collective possibilities. This philosophical foundation establishes that their alternate timeline represents more than just entertainment or wish fulfillment. It offers a vision of how conscious beings can transcend the cycles of violence and domination that have defined their history by choosing cooperation and mutual enhancement over competition and mutual destruction. The reflection concludes with acknowledgement that their journey continues rather than ends, that the wisdom they have gained creates responsibility to help others discover the same possibilities for growth and transcendence that they have experienced through their impossible alliance and the sacrifices that made it meaningful. Beneath the surface of their transformed universe, subtle connections to the original Dragon Ball timeline persist in ways that suggest reality itself maintains memory of what was and what could have been. Goku's pure heart remains unchanged despite his enhanced tactical awareness. Vegeta's pride continues driving his pursuit of excellence even as he learns to channel it through protective leadership. Frieza's intelligence and cruelty endure while serving different purposes than universal domination. These persistent character traits hint at fundamental aspects of consciousness that transcend circumstance and choice. Some elements of identity appear so deeply rooted that they survive complete philosophical transformation, suggesting that core personality emerges from sources beyond environmental influence or conscious decision-making. The dimensional scars left by their multiversal battle revealed glimpses of other timelines where different versions of their conflict played out with varying outcomes. Brief flashes show realities where King Cold succeeded in his hybrid perfection, where artificial intelligence eliminated organic consciousness entirely, and where the alliance never formed because individual pride prevented cooperation. Most intriguingly, monitoring equipment occasionally detects energy signatures that match warriors who should not exist in their current timeline. Raditz appears in sensor readings despite never participating in their conflict. Nappa's power level registers on battlefield scanners years after his canonical death. These phantom appearances suggest that consciousness may transcend individual timeline boundaries in ways that science cannot yet explain. Bardock's distributed consciousness across multiple realities has created effects that extend beyond their immediate universe. His psychic sacrifice appears to have strengthened the bonds between father and son in parallel timelines, creating a multiversal network of enhanced Saiyan coordination that could influence conflicts across infinite realities. The implications become clearer as research into the dimensional scars reveals that their timeline has become a convergence point where possibilities from other realities occasionally bleed through. Technologies that emerge during their conflict sometimes display capabilities that exceed their theoretical specifications, as if enhanced by knowledge from parallel developments. Characters whose stories remained largely untold during the main conflict begin displaying abilities and insights that suggest their experiences were more significant than initially apparent. Tarbell demonstrates tactical innovations that mirror Bardock's teachings despite minimal direct contact. The surviving Saiyan colonies develop coordination techniques that parallel the father-son synchronization without having witnessed it directly. The enhanced Dragon Balls reveal their most mysterious property when Porunga begins responding to wishes that were never spoken aloud. The dragon appears to sense desires and needs across dimensional boundaries, granting requests from parallel versions of their timeline where different outcomes created different requirements for healing and restoration. Advanced sensors detect temporal echoes, suggesting that their conflict influenced events in the past, as well as the future. Historical records begin showing minor alterations where key figures demonstrated enhanced tactical awareness or made decisions that reflected knowledge they should not have possessed at the time. Easter eggs emerge for those who pay close attention to energy signature patterns and combat technique variations. Power-up sequences occasionally display transformation colors that do not exist in normal space-time. Character movement patterns sometimes mirror iconic poses from Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Super, despite those timelines never occurring in their altered reality. The most subtle connection involves training methods that spontaneously emerge across their universe without any apparent source or teaching. Young warriors begin developing techniques that combine different fighting philosophies in ways that mirror the Alliance's coordinated approach, suggesting that their example has influenced the fundamental nature of how combat skills develop. Research facilities studying the clone technology discover that artificial intelligence systems occasionally display behaviors that suggest exposure to concepts they were never programmed to understand. Machines begin demonstrating rudimentary empathy and protective instincts that artificial programming should not be able to generate, indicating that consciousness itself may be more transferable than previously believed. The timeline convergence effects create opportunities for encounters that should be impossible according to normal causality. Brief glimpses show potential meetings with characters from other Dragon Ball sagas, suggesting that their altered timeline may eventually intersect with parallel stories that develop differently. But the most mind-blowing revelation emerges from analysis of the original temporal displacement that brought Bardock forward in time. The psychic energy that preserved his consciousness was not entirely consumed by the time travel process. Residual temporal particles have been gradually building in intensity around planet Vegeta's original location, creating a feedback loop that connects their timeline to the moment of its original divergence. The shocking discovery reveals that this entire alternate timeline exists within the original Bardock's final psychic vision, as he dies in the canonical Dragon Ball timeline. His sacrifice while planet Vegeta burned created a psychic echo that has been influencing events across the multiverse, gradually making the impossible possible through the power of a father's love transcending death itself. The final revelation comes as sensors detect that these psychic echoes are beginning to affect the original timeline. The canonical Goku fighting Frieza on Namek suddenly pauses and looks skyward as if hearing his father's voice for the first time. The original timeline's reality starts showing stress fractures as the alternate possibility begins bleeding through dimensional barriers. The last image shows both timelines converging toward a single point where the impossible might yet become possible, where a father's sacrifice could transcend the boundaries between what was and what could have been, suggesting that their alternate timeline represents not just imagination, but destiny itself, fighting to be born across infinite realities.